Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the East to West Hunts podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gruin. And today we're going to be talking about really the evolution of a hunter. And today's guest is Andrew from Endure Hunt, as he's really kind of taken himself through that evolution. I thought it'd be really, really cool to talk about. Do you hunt ducks, whitetails, elk? Like, where do you start if you look back from where you were to where you are today, right? Because the journey obviously has been, I'm sure, all over the place for you.
Yeah, it has definitely.
So Andrew, thanks for coming on, man. I'm really looking forward to this episode.
Me too. I'm happy to be here. We've been messaging a couple of times back and forth over Instagram. It's nice to actually meet virtually face to face and have an actual conversation. So I'm excited.
Yeah. It's funny how things work out that way. It starts with a couple texts, and before you know it, you're doing a lot more. So this is great. So let's get to know you a little bit. I'd love to get to know you a little bit more, but I guess take me through kind of your background. I poked around a little bit into your background, but I really know nothing aside for that you've done quite a few different hunts. So I figured that's a good starting point.
Yeah, I do not have a typical hunter's background at all.
Okay.
If you were to describe what the typical hunter is, I am not that person. I grew up I've asked this question to my family and I don't know. My mom was anti-gun. I have no idea if my dad was anti-gun. He passed away when I was a teenager, so I don't really know. But I didn't grow up. It's an interesting thing to go through. I appreciate it. I know you've gone through personal stuff too, and it's a hole that'll never be filled, but you sort of learn to live life, I guess. And I've been very lucky to marry into an amazing family, and they've welcomed me and supported me. And it's not the same, but it definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a big fisherman.
Okay.
So I grew up doing a lot of fishing, always loved hiking and things like that. I don't remember camping too much, but I remember my mom being very much a anti-gun person. And I always loved being outside. I wanted to join the military for a long time. That was kind of like my childhood dream. I wanted to be a sniper, but I'm colorblind. So
okay,
that's not an option for colorblind people,
kidding.
In case you didn't know. I did not know that at first. It makes sense.
Okay.
I ended up enlisting doing intelligence, and I was in the Marines for about 7 years or so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the first time I touched a gun was boot camp for the Marine Corps. Very first time, I remember being terrified to pull the trigger the first time because I'm like, I don't know what to expect.
Oh, that's great.
Man, I was 19 years old and I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen right now. This is awful. I have no idea what I'm doing. But yeah, I got into the military and I got very comfortable with guns very quick. I remember thinking, the average gun owner in America owns 5 guns. How is that possible? And then I bought one. It's like, oh, that's how more than 5. We can say that.
Yeah, I was about to say, I wonder how many you have now.
More than 5. But I think the military is really what kicked things off. A lot of it was guns, being outside. I love being outside. Self-sufficiency was a huge one. And, it all kind of culminated. I'm a very curious person. And I work in IT, which is the other thing that makes you think like I am not the typical person. Didn't grow up in a hunting family. Didn't really do too much outside of fishing and hiking.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it was like self-sufficiency, getting outside. And there was a growing curiosity. And I'm a very curious person. I want to understand how things work. And I'm a little bit obsessive about things. Okay. I go down rabbit holes and I go deep fast. And I was very interested in hunting, but I didn't really know anyone who hunted. I had a good friend of mine. His name's Peter. At the time, my home was New Jersey. And he lived in Pennsylvania, and I was on a deployment and I was in the Middle East, and he messaged me that his wife got him you do like consulting and stuff, so you'll understand this, but you can go through an outfitter, but hunt DIY. So his wife went through an outfitter based in Southwest Montana to get a general elk deer combo tag. Mm-hmm. And it was a DIY hunt, but he got to stay at their lodge, and he's never done a Western hunt before. He's only ever deer hunted himself, and he wasn't a diehard hunter. Okay. It was just one of the things that he did. And he didn't feel comfortable going out there by himself and being in the Marines. He's like, you're the only person I feel like could pull it off that I know. So do you have any interest in going? And I said, yeah, sign me up. I'm in. It's like I was waiting for an excuse. I don't remember the deadlines, but I was deployed and I got in contact with the outfitter and they were like, "Do you have a hunter safety?" I said, "No." They're like, "Well, you need one by January." And I'm like, "I don't get home until December." So I went all over the internet and I found out that you could do a hunter safety 100% online for the state of Texas. So when I wasn't working for deployment, I was in my little tent using the awful cell service that I had to get my hunter education certificate so I could go on this hunt with him. And yeah, a year later, we were in the mountains in Montana in November with a foot of snow on the ground, and we were going after mule deer and elk. And I had
So
never
awesome.
hunted before. It was my very first hunting experience.
Okay. I love
Yeah.
it, man. Yeah, that is not typical by any standards. It's kind of interesting because I have a very similar starting point because my dad never hunted, only fished. We used to go fishing, God, every weekend. I remember him waking me up as a kid, like 4 a.m. We'd be leaving the house to go fish. So now I've kind of resorted to saying fishing is the gateway to hunting because it kind of gets you into the outdoors and you appreciate it, but you got to now up the ante with the guns and all that other stuff. So, man, all right, so that's cool. So basically, your very first hunt is, I'm assuming, a very very rugged style hunt. Then
I got my ass beat. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can
okay,
cuss on this podcast.
you cuss away.
I speak very freely on mine, so
I love it. Do it. Yep.
I got my ass handed to me, man. I was so cocky coming out of it. I'm not actually an egotistical person, but I definitely was like, I've spent 7 years in the Marines and I just spent a year deployed. I can hike up a mountain. Ha! Let me tell you, coming from 500 foot of elevation to 7,000 or more, and like I understand now, but it humbles you quick if you don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And man, it was rough. I mean, we were there for 5 days, I think, and it was cold. I mean, I think the high temperature the week we were there was like 18 degrees.
Okay.
And there was snow the entire time, and we put the miles on. I mean, we would hike to a glassing knob, try and find some animals. If we didn't turn anything up, we'd move to a different glassing knob, and we tried to be pretty mobile. We tried a few different spots, but very rugged, lots of switchbacks going up and down. It was a physically exhausting hunt for sure.
How long?
It was about 5 days, I think.
Okay.
It was the middle of November. I don't remember the exact dates, but we were prime in the middle of November.
Yeah. Yeah, which I mean sounds typical, right? Rifle hunt and on the general license there for both.
Mm-hmm.
How were accommodations coming back to a lodge?
It was really nice. They had this big. So I actually, and you'll probably appreciate this. I don't talk down on guides and stuff like that. Like if you, especially for someone who has no experience, the few times that I've gotten to do hunts or really anything with someone else who even has a couple of more years experience than me, I always take so much away. So they had this big central dining area, and every night, everyone that was staying at the lodge and hunting, regardless of what they were hunting, whether they were going after elk or mule deer or both or bison, they were all coming back, and everybody would sit down and eat dinner together and talk about how the day went and share stories and stuff. And it was really cool to be exposed to all of those people. Great food. It was nice having warmth to sleep. I did not have correct gear for that hunt. If we didn't have a lodge to come back to, there's not a chance I was staying 5 days, because I bought the Walmart stuff. I did not have matching camo. Like everything was a mess. And yeah, I don't think I would have been able to make it if we didn't have a lodge to stay at, somewhere warm to sleep, because I needed to recover. I was so cold every day.
Oh man, I could just imagine. Did you even like take a tent though or anything like that?
No, I don't even think I owned a tent at the time.
Okay. Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, if you know you're going to be at the lodge, I know guys will take extra stuff just in case they end up kind of going off. So
I do that now. My hunt development and gear usage has changed over the years, and I feel like every time I go out, it's something, I tweak something a little bit every single time, and I get better. And now if I need to spike camp somewhere, or if I find something and I'm on the animals and I don't want to go back, I have it with me now if I need to.
Yeah.
But back then, I don't even think I owned the gear. I don't think I owned anything really. I barely had a rifle. I think that was when I bought my first rifle. I bought a Savage 308.
Okay.
Still have it, heavily modified at this point. And that is, I think I bought that thing a month or two before the season, and I shot it a ton in preparation for the season. But
well, that's good.
I was not prepared from a gear standpoint. I can say that for certain.
Oh, that's so good. I love hearing these stories because you really do hear about the evolution of every bit of it. Not even just the evolution of actually the hunting stuff, but it's like you realize all the stuff that you didn't know, right? And I think that's such a daunting part for folks. I mean, I talk to clients all the time, from mega experience to I've never hunted before, and going from here to here is so daunting. And it's like you got to just take it one step at a time, because you don't even know what you're going to like or not like, or what you're going to need or don't need, and even myself, I feel like I got a perfect system, but every time I tweak a few things here and there, depending on if it's warm or cold or totally. Yeah. I mean, plus, who doesn't like to screw around with gear?
Oh, everybody does. I mean, come on. The thing that annoys me about gear, though, and sorry for going on a tangent, is good. I talk to people on Facebook groups and stuff, and so many people use gear as a crutch. Like I've got guys telling me, oh, I want to go on an elk hunt and I want to get a new bow for it. I'm like, bro, I'm using the same bow I bought from Dick's Sporting Goods for $300.
Yep.
And I guarantee you I can kill an elk with it. You don't need to, and don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with getting good gear. The thing that drives me nuts is when people have the gear that they need and they use it as an excuse to not go out or as a crutch. It's like, man, I know it's daunting. I know it's really difficult to take that first step, but just do it. You're going to screw up. It's okay. Yeah. But don't let gear be the thing that stops you from getting out. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, you're spot on. I was actually yesterday we were hosting family for the holidays, and one of my wife's best friends, her significant other, he owns a machine shop, and he makes components for a really, really big bow manufacturer. One of the things that we were talking about is like the constant need to create something new for the marketplace, right? So it's like if you're not making something new, you're like going to fall behind because everybody else is just coming up with some random thing. And then obviously people go buy it. But the reality is like the thing from 10 years ago to today has such small tweaks to it that it's like, it's perfectly fine. And I was telling him the same thing. I still shoot the same bow. I think I've had it. It's my second bow, and I bought it, I think 12 years ago, and it's killed elk and everything in between. I think another thing that I always bring up is like, think about the legal need for speed or like weight of an arrow at the lowest point, and realize that like that's there because that will have enough killing power for whatever animal it is. And you're probably shooting way bigger or way heavier. So like you should be just fine as long as you're accurate.
Oh my God. Yeah. 35-pound minimum is like most places. And just about every bow now can shoot 60 or 70 pounds. Totally. So as long as you have sharp broadheads, you practice shooting, you should be all right.
Correct, man. Yeah, I love it. No, that was a good tangent there, because I couldn't agree more with you. I love it. Well, I'm sure we're going to talk some more gear here, but I saw your pictures. I think it was when you were on this elk hunt. Now that you're bringing it up, you guys were successful on that hunt, from what it looked like.
Yeah, I got my first and only bull. My third elk hunt ever. I drew a late rifle tag in Arizona, which I love Arizona. It's amazing. I did have a guide on that hunt. So I had a 7% chance of drawing that tag based on Go Hunt's draw odds.
Okay.
And there's always a chance. And that's why I love Arizona. Like I drew that tag with 1 point. I had 1 point.
Wow. Okay.
I have 3 points now, and I haven't.
Attention hunters. Are you sick and tired of the complicated draw systems and tag applications that take place out west? Or maybe you want to plan a Western hunt, or maybe one of your dream hunts, and you don't really even know where to start. Well, that's where East to West Hunts comes in. We take care of everything for you. We'll do the tag applications. We just need to put a strategy in play for you of what you're trying to do and when you're trying to go. Whether it's short-term, mid-term, or long-term, we want to have that play and that strategy together. And when you do draw a tag, We can look at do-it-yourself options such as hunt plans that detail out exactly how to hunt those areas, or we can get you booked with a guide and outfitter in that specific unit or area. So don't leave that hunt to chance. Give us a call, set up a time on the website, contact us on social media, whatever it is, and let's get planning towards that dream hunt of yours. And let's make it a reality. Check us out on www.east2westhunts.com. Again, that is www.east2westhunts.com. Also check us out on Instagram, YouTube, and podcast. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Drawn it again. So I drew it with 1 point, and man, that's why you got to try. I got that credit card charge, and I was like, I'm overwhelmed because, you know, they say, oh yeah, 5-7 years roughly to get a late rifle tag, depending on the unit you're applying for. Like, at least that's what the research was telling me. So in my mind, I was like, I've got 2 or 3 more DIY hunts before I draw this tag. Mm-hmm. And then I saw the credit card charge, and there's actually a really funny story there, if you don't mind me going into that.
No, go ahead.
I apply my wife for hunts too. She also hunts, and I used the same credit card. Now, okay. I did not tell her that I was applying for her in Arizona, and mostly because I wasn't sure how comfortable she would be going out that far. And I got the credit card charge, and there was like 3 seconds of being super excited, and then like a moment of terror where I was like, what if this is my wife drawing this tag?
Oh, man.
And I got point guard, so I'm like, hey, if she doesn't want to do it, we're good. But
I love it. I love it. For viewers and listeners, you just mentioned something. You want to take folks through what is point guard? I'm sure some folks are like, what is that?
So point guard is an option in Arizona. Whenever you apply, you can buy point guard, which essentially, if for some reason you draw a tag and you cannot go on that hunt, you can use point guard once for a species, and it restores your points. Can't do it more than once. But I always buy it just in case something with life happens, and for whatever reason I can't go out and get it. The option to have my points restored is huge. Not every state has that, so I always buy it. I think they have an option to buy it in a 3-year term now, and I do that to save a little bit of money. I think you only end up saving $5 or something like that, but still, I know I'm going to apply every year, so I might as well just get it. And didn't have to use it because it was mine, but highly recommend point guard if you're just not sure and you're like me and apply for everything.
Yeah, no, for folks applying to multiple states, it's a really good option. It's insurance essentially. So love it.
Yeah, okay. But that hunt was a lot of fun. It started in Thanksgiving, and I didn't know what to expect. At that point, I had hunted Utah twice and Montana. So Arizona was my 3rd Western state that I would have hunted. And I did go with a guide, like I said, because I had not enough experience. I went on my 3rd hunt, and they say it's hard when you're doing it DIY in the beginning to find elk. And I've found elk every single time that I've gone hunting for elk. Okay. But on a tag that I knew realistically could take me 9 years to draw again, I was like, I don't want to chance it. And I aggressively saved money because guides are not cheap. And I was like, where can I cut expenses? What can I sell? Am I dipping into the emergency fund here? I did a bunch of research on different guides in the area. I made a few phone calls, talked to one, and ended up settling on an outfitter. And we hunted hard. And this is something that, if for listeners or viewers, if you've never gone on a guided hunt, it's something that I want to make sure is clear. If you're not hunting on private land, even if you are hunting on private land, you'll usually see outfitters offer like guaranteed shot opportunities. That does not mean you get a guaranteed tag filled. You still have to fulfill it, but this was a public land hunt. There are 0 guarantees. You are going in and they make you sign documents that say there's a chance that you don't see anything. And that's the reality of hunting. No matter how much money you pay, there's a chance you don't see anything. And let me tell you, that was a mental grind, that hunt. We did not see a single elk until the 5th day. And the only elk we saw was my bull. And he was bedded. It was late morning, like 11 o'clock or so. He was bedded about halfway down a ridge. We were basically cruising these different ridges and just glassing across the drainage and looking for bedded bulls. It was a horribly windy day. and we were targeting specific points where the wind would go over the top. And we were like, all right, they're going to be in these spots bedded, hiding from the sun because it was kind of warm, and hiding from the wind. So we were trying to target where we were glassing. And yeah, I think it was like the third spot we tried that morning. And about 2 miles in, we're both glassing. And then my guide just says elk. And at that point, we didn't know if it was a bull or a cow. My tag was only good for a bull. But I immediately jumped into action. I was like, all right, I am setting up, pull the rifle off, throw the pack down on the ground. I thought I was going to be able to get into prone, but it was like an inch too short for me to get into prone. So I had to throw the backpack up, throw the rifle on the pack, like standing it up and trying to get in position. And then it felt like 5 minutes, but it was probably 45 seconds of me waiting for him to say bull. And literally the second he says bull, I just took the shot. And
nice.
I did shoot him bedded. I know there's some people that are like against that, but he was bedded perfectly broadside to me. I knew exactly where his vitals were. It was a 150-yard shot. My gun's zeroed at 200 yards. I've shot this thing out to 1,000 yards. Very comfortable shooting at that range.
Mm-hmm.
For the viewers that can watch this, the pronghorn that's over here, I took this at 430 yards. So
sounds
a 200-yard shot is, a 200-yard shot I'm comfortable with. That's like a good practice range for me. It does not mean I won't screw up, because I have missed shots at 100 yards that I should not have missed. But I took this shot. It was about 150, maybe it was 180 yards. Bull stands up, and I reload, because like my biggest fear going into that, I actually usually shoot 150 grain 308, but I tried different loads, and I found a good shooting load for 180, just to have a little bit more punch, because I wanted to have good knockdown power. I was terrified that he was going to run and I was going to have to put multiple shots in. Arizona, very like cedar heavy, like this is low brush, not a lot of shot opportunities. If they move, they're going to be hard to find. So I wanted to, one, take a perfect first shot, but second, try to take a good follow-up shot. Unfortunately, my rest was not great for a second shot. So I pull the trigger, everything moves because of the recoil, and I try to settle back in, and I can't see him. The benefit of having a hunting partner, he's got glass on. He's like, he's still there. He's not moving. He's not moving. I can't find him. And he's like, and he's down. Literally did not take a step, stood up, and died right where he was in his bed.
Great shooting, man.
It was a heart shot. I got lucky.
That's awesome. Well, no, you practiced.
That's fair. I did practice, but it doesn't mean I couldn't have screwed it up. You know what I mean?
That's true. Well, that's actually a hard shot. Off of the pack. Was your pack upright?
Yeah. So I wish I had it with me right now. It's why am I forgetting the brand? Mystery Ranch. It's a Mystery Ranch, but I don't remember the exact model. The Beartooth 80. I think it's the Beartooth 80. Yep. So I had it sort of resting on the metal, like that frame that's on the back of the pack. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was sitting up. So basically my left knee was pushing the bag forward, and I had the rifle on the top, and that was my resting position. So I was basically sitting cross-legged, sideways, with the rifle on my shoulder, my left hand under it, and just trying to balance that way. And yeah, that's how I took the shot.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's not an easy shot. For anybody that's not shot that, it's not an easy shot. Everybody wants to shoot prone because you're so steady. And I would say the same thing. I love a good prone shot, but taking a standing shot or a seated shot off your knee or whatever the case is, like that really just changes the dynamic of everything. So,
well, here's something, and I want to see if you agree. As I've matured in hunting, I don't zoom in as much as I used to with my optics, depending on it, because I have found that when you zoom in, it amplifies the shakiness. Yep. So I actually took that shot. I use Huskamaw. I want to say it's 5 to 25.
Yep.
I took it at 5 times. I took it at 5 times zoom, and I wanted to be fully back because in case he moved, I wanted to make it easier on me to do target reacquisition. Mm-hmm. And I was worried again about him moving. So I've taken a lot of shots, zoomed all the way out instead of zoomed all the way in. If it's beyond like 250 yards, I'm going to zoom in. Yeah. And it depends. For offhand shots or seated shots, we're a little bit more shaky. I think personally that zooming out, if you're comfortable with it and practice with it, is good because it hides a little bit of that shakiness. And I think that when you get shaky like that, for me at least, I get a little anxious that I'm going to screw up the shot. So if I zoom out I'm close enough and my gun shoots good enough, I shoot good enough to know that I'm going to be in that kill zone. So for me, it helps calm me down and allow me to take a good shot. Whereas I think if I was zoomed in, I would be more likely to screw it up because I would just be like, please, reticle, stay exactly where I need you.
Yeah, I do agree with you 100%. I think that is a what's the right way of looking at it? Like, it's a mental aspect that you're talking about there, right? Because you're like calming your own nerves. I get that question a lot, right? Because guys want to get a new rifle every year or a new scope, or they want to change things up, right? We were talking about gear and how fun it is. And I'm not a huge proponent for the super zoom stuff. Like, I got a buddy, I know you mentioned your antelope. So I have yet to shoot an antelope. Actually, I take that back. I have shot one antelope at less than 500 yards. And I a lot of times will hunt out of state. And if I'm hunting with a buddy of mine that I know has got great stuff, I won't even take my rifle. I'll just shoot his so I don't have to like fly it. And he had like a 25 zoom, where he has a 25 zoom, a really nice, like a really nice Maven scope, clear as all get out. But he had it dialed into 25, and that thing looked at 550 yards. That thing looked like it was right in my face, right? So it was great. Prone, shoot. But when you shoot, that little bit of recoil plus the animal moves, target acquisition is horrible after, right? So then he's spotting, and he's like, dude, you gotta shoot him again, hit him a little low, or whatever the case is. And then I'm trying to find him again, realize he only moved like 2 feet over, and I could just shoot right again. But that loss of view is really what I'm after. And I personally like something more in that like 3 to 9, 3 to 12, or like a 4 to 15. I think my max that I personally use is up to like a 15, and I'm almost never at that 15.
Yeah. I still have the big one, but I'm more interested in a larger objective size to get more light collection in so that I can do that, especially for first and last light. But I don't know. I'll still use it. I like to do long distance shooting for fun. At 1,000 yards, it's hard to hit if you don't have like a good 20-ish magnification.
Hence why I don't shoot that far.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
I'm like a 700 yard max guy, and if I can get it under 500, I'm really happy. So.
I mean, I don't want to shoot animals like that, but targets all day long. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, it's an art and a skill, that's for sure. So you go out west. So where did kind of your evolution come in with whitetail? Because I'm assuming that was kind of after.
Yeah, so I got back from Montana, and on the drive home, I was like, yeah, I need to hunt forever. It's pretty much how that went. I lived in New Jersey at the time, and New Jersey doesn't have elk. So I'm like, well, what can I hunt? And this is where states get so confusing, because every state has their own rules and regulations and everything. New Jersey has whitetails. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to learn how to hunt whitetails. So started trying to research that, and ended up going down the archery route because the idea of using a muzzleloader was daunting to me. I actually didn't get or shoot. My first hunt was 2018. I had not shot a muzzleloader until this year in January. It was the first time I ever shot a muzzleloader. And I now own one. I've hunted with one, and I'm going to be hunting with one in January. But at the time, I thought I could practice with a bow in my yard. It's a long season. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm going to need to hunt as often as possible if I want to have any chance of success. So that's kind of what kicked off whitetail for me was, well, I'm home. I'd like to go on a Western hunt every year, but I don't think that 1 week or 10 days, whatever I can get off from work, is going to be sufficient. So let me figure out how I can hunt more. And that answer ended up being whitetail deer. And I went at it hard in 2019. I think I hunted 3 months straight before I had a real opportunity at a deer. And ultimately, this one over my left shoulder got him in New Jersey on public land. That first season, he was a rut buck, November 16th, 2019, I'm pretty sure, at like 7:30 in the morning with snow.
Love that you know that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Well, it was my first one, man. Like it's I don't remember the date of my pronghorn, but this was the one that for me was like, you can you can do this. Like, you
Yeah.
can figure this out. And yeah, I remember the specifics of a lot of that stuff for that reason. It was cold. There was snow. I was miserable. And I wished I didn't even want to go out that morning. My wife was the one that was like, let's go. And she was there with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And she helped me look for it because I'm colorblind. So tracking is not fun. Fortunately, he bled a lot, and even I could see the blood. So
Okay.
he wasn't too difficult to find. But yeah, that's really like, so I got back to New Jersey and I just wanted to keep hunting, and I needed to figure it out. I didn't know anyone in the state who hunted. So I went on the New Jersey Department of Fish and Wildlife website, read all of the regulations, and then I downloaded Onyx. This was the first time I used Onyx. When we were in Montana, we used paper maps like idiots. So I downloaded Onyx and I started figuring out. It was really brute force, man. Just lots of YouTube, lots of reading, and lots of making mistakes.
Yep. You got to make mistakes. You're always going to make them too. I think, I don't know, YouTube's such a great resource now with everything you can see on it. But there's this notion like people don't make mistakes or something because they're on YouTube.
Well, that, and like YouTube does an awful job of making it look easy. The people that you're seeing, one, you're seeing the highlight reel of the stuff that they've done, because most people aren't going to post the hunts where they don't see anything. And two, the people who are doing it probably have more experience than you, which is 100% true in my case. So like me trying to compare myself as a first season hunter to someone who has been doing it their entire life, it's just not fair. And, you know, that's one of the things that I call myself an emergent hunter. Partly that's because, one, it's different, and that, I don't know. It's something that, like, if you hear adult onset hunter, that's a term that people are more familiar with. I don't like that term because it sounds like a disease.
It really does.
It does. It sounds like a disease. Like, oh yeah, I caught the hunter disease. It's like, I mean, in a way that's true because it is a bug and you get obsessed with it. But I don't like how that sounds.
Bad. It just
it sounds bad. I wanted a positive connotation. So
I love it.
Yeah, I started using emergent hunter, and I don't have a great explanation as for why, other than I like that term more. It's a new thing for me. I love the struggle and the experience of figuring it out. But when you're starting off, everything is new, everything is difficult, and you are going to fail a lot more than you're going to succeed. And even now, this is my 7th hunting season ever. It's a humbling one, and you constantly learn new lessons, and you're always going to get humbled. I mean, and that's one of the things that I love about it. It's not easy. You know?
Yeah. Well, that was actually one of the questions I was thinking about as we were talking was, so you got 7 seasons under your belt. You've hunted whitetail. I'm assuming, did you start hunting whitetails on the ground? Did you get in a tree stand?
So when I started hunting in New Jersey, I lived not in the middle of nowhere, but we didn't have any outdoor stores really. The only store that we had within an hour was Dick's Sporting Goods. And fortunately for me, the one that was like 30 minutes from where I lived had a whole bunch of hunting stuff. Now, Dick's doesn't carry any of that stuff anymore, but they used to back in the day. I went, and actually, this is an important side note that I think is worth it for people that are interested. If you're like me and you've never hunted before and you want to try archery and you're not sure, see if there's any archery clubs where you live. My first experience shooting a bow was with a local archery club that had like a come and shoot night, basically, where they were trying to get people to join their club, and they would introduce new people to it. So my wife and I went. It was like $10 and we got to shoot, I don't know, a couple dozen arrows just to practice. I was like, okay, I would like this. Then I went to go and try and find gear, but I bought essentially the cheapest stuff I could buy. I bought a ladder stand because it was cheap. I bought the cheapest hang-on stand and a couple of climbing sticks I could buy. Same thing for a bow. I bought a Diamond Edge SB1, same bow I still use to this day. I think fully kitted out for 2 bows with release arrows, broadheads, field tips. I spent $600 maybe for everything. And like, that doesn't even get you a bow today, really, like for starting bows, like a bare bow. But I bought the cheapest stuff I could find and tried to set myself up in either a field edge, because I knew deer liked edge habitat, or I would find like a game trail that looked like it was really used, and I would throw a stand up. So essentially that's what I did. I had one stand that was on a field edge and that looked like it was sort of a funnel. Of course, I didn't really know because I just learned everything off of YouTube, but I did a little bit of ground hunting, which is very hard. Most of it I spent sitting in a stand.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of times folks start on the ground because they don't have a stand. then they get into the stand. Now saddles seem to be the whole rage, right? Have you gotten into the whole saddle game?
I got a saddle this year and I love it.
Okay.
I tend to, I'm a huge fan of buy once, cry once you know that you like something. But when I'm not sure, I usually buy a good rated, like I can find reviews on YouTube system that's kind of financially conscious.
Yeah.
um, so I bought it's called the XOP Full Rut. It's a full kit that they have. I replaced a couple of things, like the dump pouch that they provide is honestly garbage. But as far as the platform goes, it's got a saddle. It comes with a few tethers, like lineman's rope. They all use Prusik knots, which I'm actually a big fan of. So you don't have I forget what they're called, but the aiders, maybe? No, that's not an aider.
You talk about, yeah, aiders are off of your
Yeah, it's
stick.
off the stick. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like it helps you climb, so you can do it one-handed a little bit easier. Yep. But I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on a tethered system if I wasn't sure I was going to like it. I got the Full Rut for like $400, and a tethered saddle costs like $400. So I bought that, and I did a couple modifications, replaced a few things, and I used it this whole season, and I love it. It's the mobility and being able to move where I'm actually seeing deer is really valuable, because that first season in New Jersey, I saw deer all the time, but because it was so difficult to move anything, I didn't move it all. I mean, if you've never had the displeasure of dragging a ladder stand a couple of miles into public land and then setting it up and then moving it, like, it is not fun.
Yeah.
So like that first season, I maybe moved once, and I was just like, we're gonna just wait and hope something comes by.
Yeah. It's funny because ladder stands are awesome, and the comfort and the like almost you feel safe, right? Because you got this big old thing. But man, like I had a hunting property a few years back, and I did the whole thing up, right? Food plots, and I had stands all over the place. It took so much time putting those ladder stands together. I mean, hours tinkering with little nuts and bolts and stuff like that. And to your point, once you put them up, like that baby's not going down, whether that stand is in a good spot or not. I love it. But I jumped into the saddle game, so this is my second season with it, and huge fan. Comfort, just mobility. I feel like I can hunt anywhere now, and I don't feel like I have to do it on the ground just because I want to hunt anywhere.
Yeah. There's still a place for hunting on the ground. It all depends. Like I'm basically a hunt where the animals are kind of person. And it's like, if I know where the sign is, if I have to hunt from the ground, then I guess I'm going to brush in and try and find a spot where I can hide.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of brings up another point. Any like standout strategies that you've really kind of developed over time for your whitetail hunts?
Oh, I'm probably not the best person to say. I've really hunted whitetails, let's call it 4 seasons.
Okay.
And each time has been in a different place. And I've always learned something different every single season. I think the biggest takeaway that I have from those years is, I guess it's kind of 3 things. One, you need to scout. Like, you have to learn the area. Looking on the map is great, but if you can't confirm that there are animals there and that you can get in and out without bumping animals, or your access won't play well with specific weather, like, you really need to know that. The second thing is, especially because I basically only hunt public land at this point, you need to use hunting pressure to your advantage. Figure out where people are going to come in, try and anticipate that, and either get there earlier, use a different route, figure out where hunters might push animals to, and try and set up in those locations. And then the last one is just be persistent. Like, it's not really a strategy, but you have to be out there, and sometimes it's a grind. This season has been a grind for me, learning a new area, dealing with a bunch of hunting pressure. But if you're not out there, you're not going to get them. So giving up is no good. And hunting until 9 a.m. is probably not the best thing to do all of the time, because especially late season, like, they're up and out all the time. Like, you've got to put in the time in the stand, on the ground, wherever you are.
Yeah. You mentioned you hunted in multiple areas, like you're hopping spot to spot. Is that like in a different state, or are you just hunting different like public land spots?
It's both. This season, I've only hunted in Tennessee so far. I am going to be hunting Texas soon. But, when I look back at my years of whitetail hunting, I started in New Jersey. I hunted 1 public land area there. I moved to Texas, and I had 2 seasons hunting whitetails on public land there. but I hunted 2 different areas both seasons because the hunting was awful.
Okay.
And partly that's probably me just not knowing the area well enough and not having enough years of experience in that spot. And then come to Tennessee, I've hunted multiple different units in the same area, one more than others because the deer, it just has the best deer population. The habitat is the best for it. But I've bounced around a lot in this state, in this general area, because I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to fixating and staying in one spot for a very long period of time. But if you stay in one area and you get to know it, there could be a slightly better one that you just didn't know because you didn't spend time to do it. And in Texas, driving from where I lived to the closest public land that had walk-in hunting was an hour and 20 minutes.
Well, there's not a lot of public, period.
No. So like for me to go and try different areas there is not really worth it. But in Tennessee, I can go to like 5 different spots in and within an hour. And I want to explore all of them because I want to see I want to see what's the type of habitat and hunt I want to do. Because we have an area here that's like 35 minutes from where I live where I could do like a big woods style hunting. We have good topography. It's all dense forest. There's no obvious fields. Deer density is low, but that style of hunting is interesting to me. And then we have areas that have Army Corps of Engineers putting basically food plots in, and you can hunt some mixed timber and fields and hunt that. So you've got a lot of different options. So I go down these rabbit holes. I'm a curious person. I want to try it all. So I end up having this like almost ADHD of I'm going to hunt here, but maybe this would have been better. I want to go check that out. And then I end up going to that spot too. It's kind of what it ends up being.
Love it. Yeah. So you also enjoy the poking around and seeing other things.
Oh, yeah. I am much more interested. Like, don't get me wrong, I love filling tags and I'm kicking my butt that I haven't filled a tag yet. But learning a new area and experiencing new things and just trying new stuff. I mean, I've done this year, I went on my first duck hunt. I did my first pheasant hunt. I just want to do all of it. And I like trying different things. Like it's just being out there is fun. Don't get me wrong, filling tags is great. I love having a full freezer. But I love the full experience. And when I started doing this, it was because I really wanted to spend more time outside. I wanted to be closer to my food. And I still feel that to this day.
Yeah, not to go on a totally different tangent here, but you bring up a really good point, right? Because we were talking YouTube, right? And I feel like I do quite a bit of content. And you see there's this large separation in between like filling the tag and you got to have the biggest animal and then like the experience, right? And there's like nothing sexy about the experience or the adventure, or like the hardship that goes into like the learning and like it's a grind, like I've talked to so many people that are like, dude, you make it look so easy, and it's like you have no clue how hard that other side was, but like nobody wants to pay attention to the other side because they only want to see the sexy side. And so then you almost like cringe at like, okay, do I show this other side, right? And that's why you don't see anything on YouTube showing you the grind. Like there's only few channels that you see like, oh, I didn't fill the tag, oh, I totally ate it for 10 days, oh, I screwed up the shot, right? Like nobody wants to see that kind of stuff. Everybody wants to see this big thing, but like I totally agree with you on like the adventure, and like I just want to like get out there and do stuff, right? Like you mentioned you like being outside. I think that's really the meat and potatoes of it. The big animal at the end is far and few in between.
Yep.
It's really interesting. You totally like popped a light bulb for me there, because it's like you sit there and think about that all the time. I know I do, and I hop around quite a bit too. I very rarely hunt the same exact place because I want to see what else is out there. So this year, what do you think has made it difficult for you that it's been such a grind?
Well, so I did not give myself enough time to prep before the season. So my wife and I moved to Tennessee from Texas in February. We bought an older house that needed a ton of overhaul, and we're doing everything ourselves. So I basically spent February through July working on my house every weekend and a lot of days after work, because we've done everything ourselves, gutted a ton of stuff, and we still have more work to do. But it was several months of grind on the house until I was burnt out and like, oh crap, hunting season is 2 months from now. I haven't shot my bow in 6 months. I haven't even looked on Onyx to see what public land is actually available. I haven't put boots on the ground. So I did not give myself time to scout at all. Most places I walked in once and I tried to target on Onyx specific terrain features that, would have a decent probability. And I would bring a couple cameras, throw a camera up there, see if I can't get anything on camera and see it. But I basically didn't prep myself enough for the season. And that's like one of my big takeaways that I'm going to fix next year is do summer scouting and make sure I really spend time exploring all of the different areas, trying to find the deer before the season comes in.
Yeah.
The other thing is I wasn't aggressive enough in the archery season. I had the biggest buck of my life in front of me 3 times. I missed the very first time and it was totally screwed up, but he was at like 60 yards, biggest buck by far. Had no clue I was there. I was actually hunting from the ground. It was opening day of archery and I was losing my mind. I had to take a standing shot through some brush. There was like a slight opening. So I'm almost giving myself an excuse, but I should have made that shot. Totally missed, clean miss. And I had 2 more encounters with that buck during archery season. And I always played it too safe. I was like, I don't want to scare him into the NEB zip code. And I played it too safe. And then the muzzleloader season came around. The public that I'm hunting does not have a rifle season. So there are some public land areas, WMAs near where I live that have rifle seasons. I haven't experimented with them because they're an hour or more away, or they have like antler restrictions, and I just honestly don't want to deal with that. So, plus I have all of this land near me that I can hunt, and I have a muzzleloader, so I want to try it. Opening day of muzzleloader was my final encounter with this buck, and he popped out exactly where I thought he was gonna, where I had patterned him to, but it was the last 5 minutes of legal light, and I could no longer see him and take an ethical shot. After that, the Orange Army just changed everything up, and I have not been able to figure it out since. I spent way too much time like changing different areas, trying to predict where the hunters are coming in. We have a lot of water here. So, I spent a few weeks thinking that all these guys are coming in from the road, but then I'm the only guy at the parking area and there's only one parking area. And then I see 2 other hunters. I'm like, well, I guess they came in through the lake or the river. And, there's just been a lot of curveballs that I didn't predict. So I'm learning the hard way this season, and it's kind of helping me educate and figure out where I need to go. But the deer are there. They know where it's safe, where the other hunters are going. And I have not figured out where that spot is yet.
Yeah, it sounds like the pressure could work in your advantage if you know where it's coming from.
I think I have an idea now, but I have spent way too much time hunting, and I'm trying to give my wife a break before I go to Texas for 2 weeks and do more hunting. So we went on a pheasant hunt together, and I've gone on a couple of duck hunts. I'm actually going on a duck hunt tomorrow morning.
Sweet.
And I'm trying to take a break from the deer because I'm going to be going after the deer in Texas next month.
I love it. You're very what's the right word here? You're thinking positively about how much you've hunted and impacting her. The mention that you just talked about pheasant and duck hunting, like how'd you like duck hunting? Because that's a whole nother ball game.
I don't have a lot of experience, so I've literally been doing it for 2 weeks, so it's not like I have a lot of experience. I met a guy on Facebook. Actually, I got over like being embarrassed about asking for help. I went on a Facebook group for the area and I was like, hey, I'm a new hunter. I started hunting 6 years ago. I've never duck hunted before. I'm willing to do what it takes. I'll carry gear. I'll do stuff. I don't have anything other than a shotgun and waders, but if anyone is interested in showing me the ropes, I'm happy to do it. And this guy, Noah, reached out and he was like, hey, I love duck hunting. Happy to take you. And I've gone out with him now. And, it's you wake up earlier. We had to bust ice when it was like 19 degrees out in this pond. And that was a different experience because I've never done anything like that before. You're setting up the decoys and you're laying. But, it's fun the same way that like upland bird hunting is fun because it's not like deer hunting where you shouldn't move a lot, but you can talk and BS and you don't have to worry about it. It's a lot less stress than deer hunting. And the biggest barrier is for me with ducks is there's so freaking much to know. I mean, the different species of ducks have different bag limits and all of the different decoys that you can bring and setting them up in the right position and the wind direction for their approach. And all the extra gear, the layout blinds and everything. I'm just like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what's worth the money and time and effort. And I was like, I just want to meet someone who can show me the ropes and help me figure out what to buy and not waste time on.
Oh man, I only ask because like big game is my jam.
Mm-hmm.
Birds, I don't even touch it, man.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna go do it, I'm just going with an outfitter, and I have an extreme appreciation for one the DIY guys. Like I got a couple clients, you know, they're guides for ducks or birds that got dogs. You know, the whole deal. It's like I can see why folks only do it because it's a time investment. Like
Mm-hmm.
train your dogs and know where you're going and the prep and like do the amount of decoys that it takes when you like goose hunting.
Oh my God.
You know, it's like they're out at 2 a.m. filling a field with, you know, 200 decoys and then, you know, putting up the tall grass and, you know, you got your blinds and like, to me, dude, that's like totally worth the money for the sweat equity of like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to hunt from, you know, daylight to 10. And I love that I don't have to have a trailer full of 400 decoys.
Man, if I lived in an area that had like where I live in Middle Tennessee, we are not known for duck hunting. Like Memphis, Ducks Unlimited is based out of Memphis. If I wanted to drive 4 hours to go duck hunt, maybe it would be good. But
Yep.
this is something that I want to try and figure out in a local area for honestly a break from big game hunting, because sometimes I just need to stop and do something else. And that's why I wanted to go on that pheasant hunt this year and why I wanted to try duck hunting, because I put a lot of stress and pressure on myself if I don't fill a tag or something. And there was a point where I was like, you got into this to get outside, to enjoy it, enjoy the process, learn. And now you're putting this pressure on yourself for no reason. You still have meat in the freezer from last year. Why are you stressing out over filling a deer tag in a place that you just moved to and don't have a whole lot of experience with? Relax. But then I would go into the woods and then get annoyed at myself. I'm like, all right, I need to do something else. I need to stop. I need to take a break. And yeah, that's why I wanted to try it. Plus, my wife can go and do pheasant hunting with me. I don't think I could convince her to go do duck hunting because it is cold.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
different beast.
It is. I was just telling my wife what I would like to do. Obviously, here I'm in Michigan. We have tons of lakes and a lot of, you know, rivers.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do like whitetail and also like duck hunts, but you're basically in a canoe going down, and I'd, you know, have maybe somebody drop off and then put my like, you know, put my truck down 50 miles down river somewhere and then just float camp along, and you can duck hunt because you're going to see ducks along the way, kind of a deal,
Mm-hmm.
and then hunt for whitetails along the way. I think that would be like a super cool public land style adventure, and then you got the duck hunting in there. I would do that all day long, and it would not be, to your point, the pressure is different because you, at least to me, it's that's like a whole nother ball game of adventure. But you know, if you're focused on duck or like fishing, I feel like you're gonna spook them because you're coming around the corner, and you know they're gonna obviously hear you rowing or
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But I'm not gonna be mad if I don't shoot a duck. But I'm having fun along the way. You know, I think
Yeah.
that would be super cool. So, no, it's
That
cool,
sounds
man.
awesome.
Yeah. I'll let you know if I do that.
Yeah, please do. That sounds cool. There's some areas here where you could do something like that, but I don't think I would trust the river systems here enough to do it. But that is a method. Lots of guys use boats here to
Mm-hmm.
get into public land, and you
Yeah.
can do the same thing. You can find a spot, pull up. You can't camp though. Actually, now that I think about it, you can't camp on the WMAs here, so you wouldn't be able to do that.
Mm.
But you
Yeah,
can
because
float.
here we have like you know, you got national forests and stuff like that that would butt up, so you could kind of get off wherever.
We do have some national forest, and no, we have state forest. I'm sure there's a way I could pull it off,
You'd
but
figure
I'd
it
have to
out.
do more research.
So I know you went out west, and you mentioned you were looking at draw odds. Are you applying? Like, do you have some kind of application focus that you're doing for
Oh
Western
yeah.
stuff?
I have a multi-state, multi-species strategy. I apply all over the place. It didn't start out that way. The two states I've been applying in the longest are Wyoming and Arizona, and I've tried to add states as I go. But yeah, every year, Arizona and Wyoming are either, like for Wyoming, it's a must buy a point. I don't necessarily apply just because the upfront cost is prohibitive, especially with them raising the cost of the tags. But I absolutely get a point for the big species, your mule deer, your elk, and your pronghorn. Arizona is the one where it's must apply. I apply for everything there, including sheep, because there's a chance. It's one of the few states where a non-resident has a chance of drawing a sheep tag. So those are the two longest, but I apply in Montana. Their new preference point system was a little off-putting to me, but I get a bonus point. And the thing that kills me is I buy the bonus point. I'm like, am I ever even going to use this thing? I don't know, but I like the idea of having it in case I wanted to try and draw a tag with it. So I get a bonus point there every single year. I started applying Colorado 2 years ago. So I started building points there. The newest additions for me are going to be New Mexico and Nevada.
Okay.
I like New Mexico because the no point system, it's totally random. So I like that. And then Nevada, I've always shied away from applying because the draw odds are so abysmal.
So good,
but that's the thing. It's really
so
good,
man.
And there's a chance. Yep. So, and it's not that expensive to apply in. So it's one of those. I'm like, all right, I need to throw my hat in Nevada. So that's going to be the newest addition. Am I missing anything? Oh, Utah. I've come and gone with Utah. So I applied for a couple of years and then I stopped and I started applying again. And it was for the same reason that I avoided Nevada, because the draw odds on, like, I'm never going to draw a great elk tag. You know what I mean? Like, is there a chance? Yes.
Yeah.
Am I going to get it? Probably not. But they have the random draw portion still. So I needed to just get over myself and do it and start applying again. So I added them in again this year in 2024.
Sweet. Do you have a state where you're trying to go out this year?
Man, I'll tell you, 2025 is a tough year for me to figure it out. I've got 5 elk points in Wyoming.
Okay. Should be able to draw.
That's the thing. I should be able to draw. Yeah. But I want to see if the point creep is really bad for that new region-based system that they have for the general tags. Now, there's 3 different regions. I don't have intel on, actually, that's not true. I have a little bit of intel and 1 unit in Wyoming for elk, or a few of my buddies hunted. But I don't have a ton. And I think I'm going to put in, but I still have not. I've gone on 4 mule deer hunts. I've gone on 4 mule deer hunts and I've never filled a tag, and it's driving me nuts. So I want to go to Colorado and try and fill a mule deer tag, I think is what I want to do. Either that or I give my hand in Utah, because I think I have enough points in either state to draw. So I keep going back and forth on whether or not I want to go to Wyoming and chase elk, or if I want to go after mule deer. Very conflicted.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, you should be able to draw Wyoming. I know the region system's kind of funky for listeners and viewers. So basically Wyoming, what they did was they have a general tag, and you used to be able to apply for this general tag and essentially be able to hunt a lot of areas under this general tag. And now it's separated in between essentially like 3 different portions of the state. So then now you have to apply for a specific one, and you kind of got like the western, I don't know, I call it the southern and the eastern portion. In my brain, that's just how I look at it. But you kind of would automatically assume that the southern and the western portions would take more points than the eastern, just because of public versus private. Mm-hmm. And in Wyoming, the funky part is if you're hunting wilderness, you have to go with a resident guide or an outfitter. And a resident guide means somebody that lives there that would go and actually get approved to say they're taking you out for no money, versus a actual outfitter, taking you out, and obviously you're paying them. Yeah, big concern in Wyoming too is grizzlies. So a lot of guys want to go guided because they don't want to be the only ones out there with grizzlies. So I get that too. Yeah. So, but yeah. That's a tough one. You could always apply for Colorado, and if you get drawn for both, you can potentially return your tag there. That's the nice part.
Yeah, and I think that might be what I do. Those application, it's hard to believe that application season is almost here.
Oh man,
it literally starts next month. So
2 days.
Technically, I know. Technically, Idaho, the over-the-counter nonsense. I haven't dipped my toes into Idaho because I don't feel like waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to wait in line and hope I draw a tag, or hope I draw an over-the-counter tag. I don't even know how to describe their system.
Yeah, it's funky.
Yeah. But I'm very conflicted because I've been looking forward to hunting elk in Wyoming for so long. And like, it'll be my 6th year applying. I've done it since the first year. And man, it's not a lot of points because there are guys that have like 20 points and stuff. So
Sure.
like, I can't imagine that pressure, but it's just like, I've been building these points for going on 6 years, and just, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. But the hunting in Wyoming is awesome. So yeah, I think I'm going to end up applying for both and just seeing what I get. With my job, I realistically can only go on 1 trip a year. So I'm going to have to pick, and we'll just have to see what I end up getting.
Well, good luck on that. You're probably going to draw both.
I mean, hey man, I'll take it. If I draw both, I might be like, I'm going to get a Starlink because I can work remotely with my job. So
nice.
I can try and work from the field potentially if I needed to, you know?
Yep. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, it sounds like you got a lot of states in your strategy, which is awesome.
I'm a huge proponent of that because with point creep and things like, and it's expensive, don't get me wrong. I spend a lot of time building out my budget and figuring out exactly how much money I should set aside every paycheck so that I can cover all of the applications and everything. And that's why I've added states over time. Like if you start off the jump from everyone, I mean, it's thousands of dollars potentially if you apply in every state like New Mexico where you have to front the cost of the tag. It could be tens of thousands of dollars actually if you apply for everything.
Yep.
You know, I think with how difficult it is, and like I'm never going to put down over the counter stuff because I've gone on many over the counter hunts, but I would prefer if I can draw a tag to draw a tag. I like where there's limited options. Usually if you do your research, because some states limit tags, not because it's great hunting, but they have a population objective or something. And so just because it's a draw doesn't necessarily mean it's a good hunt. But if you do your research and figure out if that's a good unit, you have a better chance of having a good tag. And by adopting a multi-state and multi-species strategy and hunting even once or twice a year, you can pretty much get something every year. I acknowledge that I'm never going to get, a point or like a 20-year tag, crazy nonsense thing like that. But that's also not necessarily what I'm shooting after. I like the experience, the adventure, getting out there, learning and doing it. And by going on a hunt every year and cycling through every 5 or so years, you can have really great fun outside every year once you start building up, I guess, a wallet of points. I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, I mean that's the grand rotation or the strategy at play, right? You got your Rolodex of options. What's your thought on the whole Colorado archery thing? Since we're talking tags.
All right, I might not know. What is it? Hold on, or maybe it's just skipping my brain right now.
With the over the counter tags being gone and everything's a draw for archery.
Man, all right. I'm going to give you my unfiltered opinion.
Okay, love it. Let it rip.
I think Colorado, I don't know what their wildlife management agency is called, but I think that this is their way of getting out of doing anything meaningful. It is trying to attempt to appease the residents by limiting non-residents while also keeping all of the money from non-residents who are coming in during the over-the-counter archery or rifle seasons. You're going to have zero impact on the elk population by altering, not zero, but like a negligible impact on the elk population by limiting the archery season. Archery has like a 10%, if you're lucky, success rate for elk. You're killing elk during the rifle season. It's also the most populated season in the state. That's the one that the residents give a shit about. And the reason Colorado did this is so that they can say, hey, look, residents, we did something. We limited the opportunity for non-residents while also taking in a boatload of money from non-residents during the over-the-counter season where they're paying hundreds of dollars for tags. And that's where the impact is going to be. So I think that the Colorado Fish and Wildlife, whatever it's called, looked at the complaints from the residents and just said, what is the least we can do while maintaining all of the money that we can have coming in?
Yeah.
And to me, it's not doing any good for the population, and it's unnecessarily limiting non-resident hunter participation. And I don't even think it's going to make the residents happy because they're still going to deal with the Orange Army. So, Yeah, I think it's kind of bullshit, if I'm being honest.
What if, not necessarily counter argument, but let's
I'm
kind of,
open. If you have a good counter, I'm totally open. I'm
I,
not like,
I don't know
yeah.
that I have a counter to it. My thought is, because this is a common question that I get, right? Like, what's going to happen? What do you think with points? And what do you think we can draw this year or whatever? But my thought is, obviously they did listen to the complaints based on the last commission meetings and all that stuff. But what if they took the entire, hey, they sold X amount of tags throughout the state, and they said, okay, now we're going to make it, you're going to apply to each particular unit to draw it. And they have a wildlife objective of how many tags now they can sell in each area. But in total, they still had the same amount of tags that they would sell as like what they sold the last 3 years in an average for archery.
Yeah, that's tough because that's one of those psychological phenomena where like you're not actually changing the population objectives or anything, and it's still the same number of tags. And maybe my reaction, if that is actually what's going on, is unwarranted, but the psychological effect is still there because it seems like a money grab from the outside if that isn't the case. If that is the case and it's the same amount of tags and I just didn't realize it because I didn't research it enough, then I guess my opinion is like, whatever, that's fine. I don't really care. For me, and I don't really trust Colorado that much because of the ballot biology stuff, which I hate. But for me, it's always needs to be like the North American model of wildlife conservation is what matters. So like if there is a reason to limit tags because of the population, totally up for it. Like the stuff that Utah's doing this year, where they did their huge mule deer 6-year plan, I think it is, or 7-year plan, and they're overhauling a bunch of stuff, going traditional muzzleloader and trying to adjust the buck-doe ratio to increase the overall population and herd health. Like, is that going to be reduced tags? Potentially. But it's for the long-term health of mule deer, and mule deer are suffering in the West. So like as sportsmen and women, we should be supportive of that because that's what it's about. We need to contribute to the population and we serve as a tool for these wildlife management agencies. Hunting is a tool, and like we have the privilege of participating in this model of conservation. And I try to remind myself of that even when I go on rants about Colorado, because ultimately like they are the stewards of the animals within their state and they are allowed to dictate how things go. My hope is that they are doing things that make the most sense for the animals and the ecosystem, and not just because people are complaining. Not that that isn't a valid reason. It is.
Yeah,
But,
no.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. And Utah does do some good things, in my opinion. I know I see people, I feel like people complain about anything, so it just doesn't matter in that realm. But I kind of saw the cascade happening kind of before it was happening because I was watching certain units go to a draw only that used to be over the counter, kind of prep to it. But the amount of tags that they have is still like a lot, like they might have 2,000 tags in the area and it requires 0 to 1 points to draw. So it's like, okay, like, so you're telling me there's still 2,000 people that got tags. Like that's a lot. So I don't know. We'll see. I haven't dug into like, nor I don't know if they published this or not. I haven't dug into it yet for Colorado for clients and all that, but I'd be curious to see how many tags are going to go per unit for archery, because I think that'll either like piss off or it'll make people realize like, oh, it's not as bad. I don't know. We'll kind of figure it out. But I do think rifle's going to go that way too.
It has to.
In like 2000, in what I think it's 5 years, so it'd be 29. Will be probably the next time commission meeting comes along, and they're gonna go that route to kind of get people out of the point pool.
Yeah, the writing's been on the wall for Colorado for a few years. Even like myself, just like not. I mean, I think I'm pretty decent with understanding how draws work and paying attention to that stuff. You obviously do it professionally, so we're different levels. But the writing's even been on the wall for me for the last 2 or 3 seasons, where I'm like, yeah, Colorado's shutting down units and making them go draw. Residents complain in every forum about the nonsense of the non-residents and all of that. And there's financial arguments to be made there, and there's a whole like it's such a nuanced thing.
Totally.
And like I'm super passionate about the stuff that I said because I feel like Colorado is just trying to do. I do think that they just tried to do the bare minimum that they could to make it look like they were doing something, which I'm not a fan of. Like just rip the damn Band-Aid off and do it.
Totally. Yeah, you're gonna
But
piss people off either way, so just
yeah,
let it rip.
yeah. And it's just like no one is going to be happy no matter what. So just do it. Like people are going to complain. They want, like, everyone wants more bucks, but they also want more tags.
Right.
And it's like you can't have both necessarily.
Yep. So that brings my, I think this will be my final question for you as I was thinking about it. So you're talking about never going to maybe hunt these 20-year tags. You mentioned you're going to apply it in New Mexico. Are you going to go hard at the like trophy units, or are you going to go more towards like, okay, I got a little bit better odds here, even though it's all randomized?
It's going to be a mix. So it all depends. I'm usually thinking about what I want to hunt the year or two before. I'm looking at the points I have in each state, and I'm looking at draw odds, and I'm trying to predict. So on years where I'm pretty confident that I'm going to draw a tag. So going into this year, I am going to draw Wyoming or Colorado. It is going to happen.
Yep.
So I shoot for the fences on those.
Love it.
Same thing with Arizona. Like I'm going to apply for the strip for mule deer. Like, come on. There's a chance. It's a low one, but there's a chance. So it all depends. If I want a good chance at drawing like a mule deer tag or an elk tag in New Mexico, those units that's got like 20% draw odds or something. And I know those are tough hunts, and the population may not be the greatest there, but there's animals. People kill them there. Depending on like the public-private stuff, you have to figure all that out potentially. So it'll depend. I definitely vary it on how likely I am. If I'm going into an application season and I'm not sure, then I'm going to play it conservative and just cast a wide net and hope I draw a tag, you know?
Mm-hmm. Love it. Yeah, I do the exact same personally. I'm hell, I was just talking about this with a buddy of mine because like I'm a for sure bet to draw in a couple of states. So it's like I'm swinging for the fence on every single other thing. Because if I hit those, they're no brainer. I'm going on one of those. And I'm, I might say the hell with the other one. So that's exactly how it plays out. But yeah, smart, man. I love it. So if you were to go back in time, start everything over from day one of your hunting journey, advice to folks maybe that are dabbling into getting involved, or maybe they're hardcore whitetail hunters looking to get out west, like would you change the way that you came through the process of going for your first elk hunt and then kind of going through the ranks of other hunts?
I think I'm gonna break it up into two different areas, if that's okay. I want to talk about Western specifically and then whitetail specifically, because I think I would adjust things slightly for both.
Okay.
As it comes to Western hunting, I went in completely blind. I did zero prep. I basically bought some gear, did some hikes, and shot my gun. And then I showed up with my buddy who did all of the scouting and figured things out beforehand. I would probably do that different. I would say, first of all, it's all overwhelming, right? So whether if you can afford it, I really do think going with a guide or someone that can steer you in the right direction is worth it if you have the money to do it, because it is so hard to figure it out. And like, I've now mentored a couple of people. I try my hardest to find some gimmies here and there because it's a grind, even as a seasoned hunter. And that can be super defeating for somebody who is just starting.
Yeah.
Because what's the incentive to keep going? Like, there's a chance that the tag won't get filled. And I do think that you significantly increase your opportunity if you go with like an outfitter. I know I hear every time I listen to Ken's podcast him talk about your services. So I know that you can give people advice and everything. Ken from the first generation hunter podcast, for those listening that aren't familiar with him, great podcast. You should listen to him. But like I said, if you could afford it, find a service, a consultant, a guide, or something if you can afford the services, because it will save you a lot of time and effort and energy and frustration. If you can't and you need to go to the DIY route, just pick a state and just go. Like, go to Colorado and hunt elk if that's what you want to do. You're going to deal with a ton of people. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're probably going to get winded from the elevation. But you have to go through those hurdles. Don't be scared by it. So like if I were starting over and I hadn't gone on a hunt, I would probably go to either Colorado or Utah, do an over-the-counter hunt, or pick one of those ones where you can draw with no points and just go out and experience it, because the chances of you having success are so low on that first hunt if you're doing DIY. So I think that's just my biggest piece of advice. Because the thing that kills me is so many guys, they just don't even try. Like, oh, it's my dream to go on an elk hunt. Bro, you can save $1,000 over a couple of years and go on a hunt if like you need to. Like the only thing holding you back is probably in your head and your own mind, making up excuses, or you just don't want it that bad. And that's fine. Just be honest with yourself. But I think my biggest piece of advice is just do it and have fun. Go out, go learn and figure it out. Make the mistakes, cherish all of those moments, learn from it when you come back, and then do it again next year if you can. And then slowly build things up and add complexity. Keep it simple. Don't invest a shit ton of money in gear that you don't need. Like, keep it simple, get out and have a good time.
Love it.
On the whitetail side, I think the biggest piece of advice that I would love to give to myself 6 years ago is ask for help, dude. Like, I had this huge problem in my head of asking for help. And I think a lot of guys that get out of the military feel this way. Like, we don't like asking for help. All of my buddies are that way. And as I have gotten over that, I realized that are there a lot of dicks on Facebook and forums?
Absolutely.
But there are people out there that if you just say like, hey, I don't know anything, I will work hard, I won't complain, I just want someone to help show me around, you will almost certainly get one person that will reach out to you. Yeah. I see it all of the time on the Facebook group here for Middle Tennessee, like Middle Tennessee deer hunters. Someone will ask and someone inevitably be like, hey, shoot me a DM and let's talk. Or I'll take you out and show you spots or whatever. Like, you will find someone that can help you if you get over your own ego. And that was the biggest problem for me. That is gone now. I have no shame in saying, I don't understand how this works. And I will ask you the simplest question that like anyone who has years of experience should probably know. But like, I don't know. And I'm never going to find out if I don't ask. Yeah. And I feel like there's a stigma that as like, I'm in my 30s, I hunt, like you should know what you're doing. But that's not necessarily the case. And we need to be comfortable asking for help. I think, is it possible to do it by yourself? 100%. I've done it. Like this deer, I got grinding it out and learning the hard way. However, if I asked for help and got someone to show me the ropes and teach me and show you in person, you learn so much more if you can ask questions and learn from someone who's actually had success. So don't be afraid to go on your local Facebook group and just say, hey, I have no experience. I want to learn if there's anyone that can show me the ropes. And I think that's the number one piece of advice I would give myself if I were starting whitetail hunting over again.
It's great advice on both accounts there. Love it.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks. That was awesome. I'm always just very curious, right? Because everybody's got a different point. And if you look back, you know, you'd either say, gosh, I wouldn't change a thing because I just love getting the shit knocked out of me, or
I mean, I do. Don't get me wrong. Anyone that's hunted with me will tell you, like, I do things the hard way on purpose.
Yeah.
Like to deal with the shit.
Yeah.
So that's not the advice that I would give someone though.
No. It's fair though.
If I were to do it over again, I would probably do the same stupid shit I did the first time around because I am very stubborn and determined. But if I'm giving advice to someone, that's not the advice. You know what I mean?
No, but it's true. I mean, you know, hell, my own business. I mean, that's the whole point, is helping folks. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you ask for help, like there is a ton of help out there. To your point though, you know, the forums, there's always somebody chiming in like, you're an idiot, you know, and you're like, dude, come on. Like, you're not supposed to be. The whole thing of tearing another person apart for no reason makes no sense to me. I actually stopped commenting in a lot of the forums for people because it was just like, I can't even sit here and read the negativity for some of these folks. It's like you're just literally bashing people for no reason. I rather just send them a message and be like, hey, like, I'll give you a few pointers if you want, you know, or whatever the case is. So
that's basically what I do at this point.
Yeah. So, well, cool, man. I loved it. Great conversation. I really, really appreciate the you know, the story to how you got started and kind of where you're at. And I'm sure we're going to have more stories to chat about down the road in the years to come. But with that, let's kind of tee you up here. So you have your own podcast called Endure Hunt, and
yes,
if folks wanted to follow you, listen to you, all that jazz, how do they do that?
Yeah, so it is Endure Hunt. It's ENDURHUNT. I came up with that name. I get asked that question sometimes because everyone has, such and such outdoors, and I very specifically wanted to make an effort not to do that. So I came up with that name. I don't exactly remember how or why. I think it was basically a nice way of saying I am persistent and stupid and stubborn. I will endure all of the pain while I'm hunting, and I combined it into Endure Hunt. But yeah, that podcast is on the major platforms. I do video on both Spotify and YouTube for all of my podcasts. Most of it is me talking and sharing the stupid mistakes that I make in hopes that you do not reproduce those mistakes. But every once in a while, I have awesome guests on to talk about hunting. Their experiences, lessons, and plans and hopes and things like that. As far as social media goes, I am not great at social media. I don't know, sometimes I get good at it and sometimes I suck, but you can find me on Instagram. That's the best one. Endure Hunt there as well. ENDURHUNT. I love getting messages from people that have questions or want to chat about stuff or want advice. I'm all about it. So do not hesitate to reach out to me. I love engaging with people and talking about hunting. It's like the only thing I think about. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you, Alex, so much for having me on. I had a blast.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, and thanks for coming on. This was great. Well, I'll wrap up here on my spiel. As Andrew mentioned, it is tag application season. It is the 30th of December, so we got some good stuff cooking here for January. So if you are ready to rock or have been thinking about getting involved with applying or planning a hunt or whatever the case is, please reach out to me. You can follow on Instagram at East2 West Hunts, which is East, the number 2, West, and Hunts. You can also go to my website, which is www.east2westhunts.com, and go book a free consultation and let's chat about what you'd like to do. And if I can help you, I will certainly let you know, and we can go from there. With that said, review the podcast, give us some 5 stars. That'd be fantastic. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. We are on all the major platforms as well, and in video on YouTube and Spotify. And I think that's all I got. So until next time, remember to scout, hunt, and repeat. Thanks.